Hi everyone, it's Meredith with Pop Vintage and Home. Today I have a flip through for you. This is a new journal I just finished creating for myself. I just finished putting on the finishing touches this morning. It's made from a very old book of poetry called Heaven's Distant Lamps, put together, edited by Anna E. Mack. This book of poetry was copyrighted 1900. It's a very, very old book. I picked it up at a flea market earlier this fall. I think it was in early October. And I bought the book just because I thought the cover was so pretty and unique. It has what looks like, I'm guessing it's a silhouette of maybe Jerusalem, maybe Turkey. There are the beautiful trees in the foreground. And you can see the colors are white, a light aqua, and gold. I'm gonna just raise it up so you can see it better. It's just a beautiful book. And it occurred to me, I was looking at it one day trying to figure out what am I going to use this book for, what kind of a journal, and then of course it just jumped out at me that I should use it for some kind of an aqua and gold themed journal. So the journal itself is about, 4 3/4 wide by, I think it's about 7 inches high. I did a flexible spine on this journal. I watched some tutorials by Amber at Thrifty Journal Shop. She's a big fan of the flexible spine, and I have watched her videos where she's worked in journals with flexible spines, and it just seemed to make so much sense to me rather than doing a hard spine. So I did my first flexible spine using wallpaper. I sewed in my signatures for the first time in a while. I had been making a lot of cinch bound journals, and I put a little eyelet in the top so that I can add a dangle. So that's the front of the book. The spine, I chose a light blue wax thread, and the back is just a simple off-white color. So on the inside, I put this beautiful scrapbook paper with gold accents on the inside cover. I made a little pocket here. This is a thicker paper from a vintage sewing book, actually, and I just made pockets out of it. And I put some bits of ephemera here in this front pocket. So I've got some Monopoly money, some vintage playing cards that I picked up at a town-wide tag sale this fall, and a fun vintage recipe card. Again, I was trying to pull out the colors of that kind of sagey aqua and gold or yellow. Inside the spine, I tried to trim it out with a piece of ribbon that I cut. I didn't like the raw edge that I had from when I cut the pages out, so I tried to trim it out with a piece of this ribbon, and I don't love the way it came out, but I suppose it looks better than just a raw edge. The first page is some lighter weight scrapbook paper from a paper pad, a wonderful paper pad I got at Walmart. Some beautiful lace trim that Carrie the Paper Monkey sent me in Happy Mail. On the inside, I did a little fold out And then this is from a vintage sewing book. The Wonderful Whale Tale is again from Carrie. Thank you. This is vintage stationery, and I put some seam binding on the side and seam binding on this side. This is a really fun ad for Bell telephones that I got from a Vintage Life magazine. And of course the colors are perfect for the journal, the light blue. On the other side, I made a pocket. This was from another vintage ad. I just cut it to size, cut it to shape for the pocket from an old Life magazine. It was an ad for wall coverings, and the background is a beautiful blue. Inside this little pocket, I have a journaling card with an ad for English lavender bath salts and soaps, a little beautiful toiletry gift set. This came from an old Life magazine, and this is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful vintage gift wrap that Meg at Chasing Retro sent me in Happy Mail, and I backed it onto the thick light blue paper from the vintage sewing book. And as you can see, I punched the corners. In here, this is a wonderful vintage postulette that I got at an estate sale in early October. You guys are gonna love this. Look at this, and it's perfect. It's the blue and the gold. You can see that shiny gold paint. It's so sweet. Lots of writing space here, which is great. I can write a letter to myself. This is just semi-vintage resume paper. It's really nice paper. It's probably from the 1980s. It's just from my personal stash. This is the title page of the book. I just wanted to have it in here. This has the copyright, and I taped in the dedication page from the book to all the sad and weary, because it's a book of poetry, book of poems intended to uplift people when they're feeling sad and down. This wonderful page here is from a vintage children's book. I made a fun little pocket here with some scrapbook paper, and I stuffed the pocket with a really old Monopoly card. I always loved the look of the faucet on the Waterworks Monopoly card. Some Monopoly money, some Milton Bradley money, and Oriental Avenue because it's just the right color. Pardon me. This is vintage gift wrap that I got at a townwide tag sale in September. This is from a vintage science book. It's just the perfect colors, the gold and the blue. On the back, I made a pocket using this beautiful cardstock, which I don't think I have any of it left, which is too bad because it's so pretty and I've gotten so much good use out of it. I made a little hidden pocket, and I just took this old ad for My Doll, which I thought was fun and cute. And I made this very pretty tag from a manila file folder and some vintage wallpaper, rickrack, and extras. Let's see, I'll put those back later. This is a book page from a vintage sewing book, and I glued, I made a lace ribbon from some vintage lace that I picked up years ago at my local Goodwill. Glued it on there. And I made a little piece of junk journal jewelry with some beautiful beads and materials that Carrie sent me. I'm gonna make another lace ribbon out of this piece of lace, and I'm gonna glue it in on this side. Coffee dyed paper that I made with gold rickrack on both sides. This is gift wrap. It's not vintage. I got it at TJ Maxx a couple of years ago, but it's the perfect colors, the blue and the gold. And I just punched the corners. This I just did about an hour ago. I just glued this lace trim on this piece of vintage stationery. And because I wasn't feeling like I had enough gold in the journal, I got this gold ribbon at an estate sale last weekend, so I just added it on top of the lace. And I have the wax paper just so the glue doesn't run through and stick to the other pages. This is a beautiful old map page that Carrie sent me in Happy Mail. Ledger paper from an old ledger that I got at an estate sale. Sewing page. This is the center of the signature, and I've got some little vintage beads that I tied to the string. Little vintage beads, little dangle. And I have an envelope here. I glued the envelope to the other side of the page. And inside the envelope, I just have some fun ephemera I made. A mohair sweater from a vintage knitting magazine. And on this side, I just tucked in some super cute cards from an old Clue game from the 1960s. I got these at an estate sale last spring. There's the other side of the ledger. It's big paper, so I figured I'd just fold it in. This is from the children's science book. And I don't know if you can tell, but I did ink most of the edges of most of the pages. In the other side of this pocket, I tucked in a beautiful turquoise blue paint chip. And this was from a deck of vintage Old Maid cards. There's a lot of blue touches to her uniform, so that's why I included her. This is the other side of the vintage children's book. Such a pretty picture. I love that. The black houses at night with the yellow windows glowing against the turquoise blue background. It's just so pretty. This is the cardstock that I have on the inside front and back covers. And on the back it's like a ledger, which I like. Vintage stationery, the sewing book page, and then this is, oh right, it's a little side pocket. I haven't put anything in there. I'll need to fill that. This is the second signature. This is more of that beautiful paper from the Walmart paper pad. I trimmed it out in this beautiful antique lace. I got this summer at an antique store in Maine. And I added this fun little dangle. Oops, the safety pin keeps opening. This fun little dangle that Tracy at Tracing Dreams sent me in Happy Mail. Perfect color. Oops, I'll have to fix that later. On this side we have a flip out. The flip out is the edge is trimmed in some lace. And then we have an inside pocket with some fun ephemera. The lady in the blue dress with the matching blue shoes and the pearls. I just love that stacked heel shoe. Such a great look. And this kind of abstract drawing of a fashionable 1950s lady from a fashion spread in a Life magazine from 1957. And it's just backed onto that sewing page. This is a light blue. The color isn't showing very well in the video, but this is actually a light blue. And I just punched the corners for an extra touch. Vintage stationery with rickrack. This is from a vintage children's book about careers. It's just some scrapbook paper. It's really pretty. It's like a light blue with gold flecks. I got this at a tag sale a couple years ago, a yard sale. Trimmed out with some vintage lace. Sewing page. This is an envelope. I just tucked it in here. I think I'm gonna cut it and make it a side pocket. Sewing pattern. On the other side of the sewing pattern, I made this library card pocket out of the tabbed dividers you put in a 3-ring binder. It's just the perfect color for a library card pocket. I trimmed it out with a little rickrack. And I've got a little journaling card in here. Another vintage 1950s magazine ad. And I backed it onto blue cardstock. More vintage ledger and another whale tail from Carrie. Love it. More vintage wrapping paper. Oh, this next page is really fun. I gotta get it set up though. Okay. So this is an old greeting card. It's a vintage greeting card. Beautiful color. Beautiful blue. And it has a cutout. And on the other side of the cutout, there's actually a message, but I took the opportunity to tuck a piece of ephemera back here that I made into a journaling card. This beautiful photograph of a woman gazing at her reflection in a beautiful mirror on the pretty gold cardstock. I put that in there to kind of frame her face. And then on the other side, there's another cutout, and I tucked a vintage postcard in there. Again, just to frame the flowers. This is a vintage blank book page from the end of a book. Sewing pattern book, another awesome whale tail. I love these little tabs. They make such great tabs. They're so much fun. This is a page from a book of shorthands that Tracy at Tracing Dreams sent me in Happy Mail. I just love it. Here's a vintage envelope, vintage stationery. And inside the envelope, I got more ephemera. It was an ad for transistor radios. I just fussy cut the lady's beautifully manicured hand. And the colors are perfect. It's a blue transistor radio with gold accents. I put it on the fun, sparkly blue cardstock that I got at Michael's. This I fussy cut from a children's book. It just fit the space perfectly, so I put it on the other side of the envelope. There's the inside of the card. I trimmed out the other side of the ledger paper with this beautiful antique trim that I got at Vintage Market Days a couple years ago. I love these dresses. We're coming to the end. This page, I'm going to either glue or staple in a fabric flip here. I made the fabric flip this morning, and it's this beautiful piece of vintage trim, a piece of fabric that Tracy at Tracing Dreams sent me. This is vintage fabric I got at Vintage Market Days. This wonderful daisy tulle I picked up at an estate sale last weekend. And this is another piece of vintage fabric that I got at Vintage Market Days. So I'm gonna put it right here on this blank page. And this is the last page. It is a flip out and it's a fold up. I learned this trick from Meg at Chasing Retro. She does all of these very innovative page layouts and page cuts and page folds, and I think it's so neat. So it gives you extra journaling spot, it gives you a place to hide ephemera, and I've got a paint chip here. And then it just folds back in. Oops, there we go. And this is the back cover. This is, as you can see, from a package of vintage trim. I just glued it to the back of the pocket, and inside the pocket we have another vintage Old Maid card, Ballet Betty with her pretty blue tutu, and another vintage recipe card. I just love this, showing divinities, and I just love the aqua and green background. So this is my new journal. I'm very excited to start writing in it and start collecting things in it. I will make more ephemera for it. I will include flotsam and jetsam I accumulate in my personal life to put in here. And as you can see, like, it's already quite wide. I wasn't expecting it to be so wide, and had I realized it would, I certainly would have made the spine a lot bigger, but that's okay. The wider, the more fun it is inside. So I hope you enjoyed my journal. I'd love to know your thoughts. I'm really happy with this one. I feel like my junk journal making is slowly but surely improving. Always room for improvement, but I really like the way this turned out, and I'm so excited to use it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great day and a great weekend, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.